It all began with Iron Man in 2008 and evolved into the MCU universe and ended with Avengers Endgame. What's up, YouTubers on the world? Make It Geek Mixer here, ready to give you guys my spoiler talk on Avengers Endgame, which I saw on Thursday, and man, came back home, did a non-spoiler review. So if you guys haven't seen it yet and want to just see my non-spoiler review, go in the link description down below where I have it for you. But let's not waste time. Let's get into talking about it because I don't know how long this video will go on. There's a lot to discuss here, but that's why I made a list here and try to keep this list minimum of discussion. Let's start off with Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch. Now, the reason I put these two together because I'm debating which one is the strongest here, but I think I'm gonna have to give it a Captain Marvel, mostly because some of the things that she can do, Thor can do, and in this film she showed a little more than what Thor can do. But even still though, the reason I was having these two together is because in this movie, those two are the ones that really gave Thanos a run for his money one-on-one, to where they could have killed him if they could. Or better yet, let me just put it this way. Scarlet Witch was the one who would have killed him if he had not seen that he was about to die, that he got his entire army to start shooting down on the battleground. Eventually, though, that battleground, they stopped shooting at the battleground and shooting in the atmosphere when Captain Marvel showed up and destroyed his giant ship, and then went one-on-one with Thanos. Thanos tried to headbutt her, but it didn't even work. But how he used the Power Stone, took the Power Stone and just punched her out of the way. Very strategic there. So yeah, he with Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel, Thanos had to be tactical with them. Everyone else, he could just outfight, really. Yeah, but yeah, there's that one right there. And I will also say in this one, it gave Captain Marvel a little more liking in this one. It has nothing to do with Brie Larson. It's just how she was introduced to us in her solo movie. I didn't like it. If you guys want to check out my non-spoiler review of it, you can see it all there. I know I haven't done a spoiler review of it, so let me just tell you, I didn't like how they made the Skrulls the good guys and the Kree the bad guys. The Kree and the Skrulls are supposed to all be the bad guys here. I mean, I can understand. It was just pretty much like Iron Man 3. Now, I can understand when people do that, but sometimes it just doesn't work, and that was one of the things that didn't work. But now, sorry to get off topic. I just wanted to point one of the main things that made me not like it there. There was other things about it, but I'll say, but that's all for right there. It's time to go straight into the Avengers now. And then the fact that, okay, so with Endgame, we got in the next thing we got flash forward, post-apocalyptic world, and time travel. With the flash forward, at the beginning of the film, it starts off with 3 weeks past after Infinity Wars and after the snap. They find Tony thanks to Captain Marvel, and they find out where Thanos is and decide to go after him then. He's become a farmer now, but they can't undo what he's done because he destroyed the stones after what happened. And well, and that's when, since they realized there was nothing they could do, all they could do was try to move on. And that's where it led into the post-apocalyptic flash-forward timeline world. And the fact that 5 years had passed, it was 2023, and people were still trying to recover after what happened. Even on Earth, they made a little monument of all those who vanished. And really, well, let's just say that when someone tries to axe on that, someone being Scott, who was part of the whole list of people who vanished but didn't, he was just stuck in the quantum realm, and in there it was just for 5 hours. But here, that was but after he returned, he learns while it was 5 hours in there, it was 5 years in the real world. He tried to ask a kid what happened, but that kid wasn't going to say what happened. Who would? People you love vanish right in front of your eyes with no explanation, and they're nowhere to be found. Who would ever talk about something like that? No one will. No one. Yeah, but he found out that he was part of that list and no one in his family was, so he went to go see his daughter, who was now a teenager. And a nice happy reunion there. That was a very good emotional happy moment right there. But then he went to the Avengers to let them know there's a way to fix this in a sense of time travel. Where first off, when they were working on trying to work on this machine to make them time travel, they started making all these Easter egg moments about Back to the Future, Doctor Who, and anything else that can deal with time travel, and say that and all those movies that deal with time travel, they're all fake. That's not how time travel works. So they're trying to tell us that in this movie, the time travels works that way. So in other words, this was the Russo saying, we're not going to do the usual time travel that people do with their movies or shows. We're going to do something different in the sense of time travel. And by God, did it work? This was a great way to do time travel. And one of the reasons why they were doing it differently was because story-wise, Tony didn't want to go back in time and just fix things and expect things to start from back then, and then we just work our way and we just go normal time afterwards into the present. Why? Because he has a family now. Pepper Potts and Tony have a daughter named Morgan, who in the comics is actually Tony's nephew, but here it's his daughter. They have a daughter. Woo! Yes! I could not have been more happier for those guys. So I could understand why Tony did not want to get involved in this at first. And even Captain America, he tried to persuade him at first a little, but at the same time, he wasn't going to try to continue to persuade until he would change his mind, because he didn't want to do that to Tony. He already made a somewhat similar mistake like that when he didn't tell him about his parents' death, and he didn't want him to lose what he got, because out of all the Avengers during that post-apocalyptic world time, at the beginning of the time jump, all of them were struggling to try to get their lives back in order. And Tony was really the only one who was able to truly move on, all because of him having a daughter and getting married and stuff. So yeah, he was the only one who truly did. And like I said, Steve didn't want to destroy that for him. So he was like, we got to try to find Bruce Banner and let him help out, who became in this one Professor Hulk. And let me just say, this is one of the negatives I have in the film, and the fact that we didn't get Hulk the way we want it. Now, this may be sounding nitpicky and stuff, but I think we might all agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, Professor Hulk was awesome. He was really awesome in this film, but I really wanted to see some Hulk smash action. Yeah, Hulk smash! But unfortunately, we didn't get that. And that's one of the negatives I had about this film. Professor Hulk, the role he played in making the machine and everything, I loved it. I really did love it. But I really wanted to see him do some smashing. Now, that's not to say he didn't have his moments. It was actually him who restored everybody. He used the Infinity Gauntlet, and he caused the first snap that restored all those who lost their lives during Thanos' Infinity War snap. So yeah, all good on him on that end. But eventually Tony did ended up changing his mind. But it was him who made him realize that they need to try to do this time travel thing differently, and in the sense where like they will go back in time, but they're not going to just go back to when Thanos did the snap and redo it over. No, instead they're going to find the Infinity Stones from each of the different pasts of the Marvel MCU events that happened through all the films, such as Avengers, such as Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, almost everyone. This is actually led right into what I was talking about back in my non-spoiler review, and how like it was the time travel thing, and how they were time jumping to some of the past films such as Avengers Endgame, and all these, I mean not Avengers Endgame, but Guardians of the Galaxy, and any other places that dealt with the Infinity Stones. That's how it went, and boy was it beautiful, along with some funny comedic moments out there, such as Ant-Man talking about Captain America and his American ass. Oh, that was hilarious. Yes. Oh my God. Oh boy. And even Captain America's agreeing with that because he had a little one-on-one battle with his past self. And how he retrieved the Mind Stone, Captain America, oh, was that a good call Easter egg back to the not so good comic book event of Secret Empire when Captain America was part of Hydra, because it was also a callback to Captain America Winter Soldier and the fact that he was in that elevator to get the Mind Stone. The way he got it by was saying, "Hail Hydra." Boy, I'll bet that felt good for him to say that. Not in the sense that he wanted to say that. No doubt he was disgusted by that, but in the fact that he could use that to his advantage to shove it in those guys' faces that they just got screwed. No doubt that felt good to Cap on that end. Unfortunately, though, one of the things about retrieving the stones was the Soul Stone. Y'all know how it had to happen with how they had to get that Soul Stone? Well, it was Black Widow and Hawkeye, who, by the way, went as Ronin in this film. And real quick, I'm going to talk about that scene with Ronin. I wish we got a little more of him, but with what we got from him, with him being this vigilante, killing all these criminals and stuff, as a way to take away the pain from having lost his entire family, he was the only one who didn't vanish during that time. Yeah, it was good to see that. But either case, back on to how they got the stone. One of those two had to sacrifice themselves. And funny, the way they met was by fighting, and the way they end things between them is by fighting, because both of them were wanting to fight, being the one to be sacrificed. But in the end, it was Black Widow who chose to sacrifice herself so he could be able to see his family. And yeah, and also, but no. I'll talk about that here in a minute, really. Or better yet, yeah. Let me go ahead and talk about Thor here real quick, because Thor, he took the most effect out of the whole Infinity War, because he should have gone for the head, and that's exactly what he did when they went to try to get him to change it back, but they couldn't. So he thought the best he could do was make up for what he didn't do last time. That was chopped off his head with his Stormbreaker. He went for the head. Unfortunately, it didn't make a difference that time. And it left him pretty much a drunken, bitter man. Pretty much, he was what Valkyrie was back in Thor Ragnarok when he first met her. And by the way, they did end up making Norway as New Asgard their new home. And they made a life by being fishermen by that. And yeah, Thor, who was always also muscular, was now fat, all from all that drinking and everything. And the only thing that made him go with them was that they had beer. But luckily, when he went to the past to get the Reality Stone, it was his mother who healed him from that injury of losing losing to Thanos. And he also took that chance to get Mjolnir back. I'm pretty sure he missed Mjolnir. But also, this is where I'm going to talk about one of the breakout stars, and that is Nebula. Yes, what made Nebula one of the breakout stars was how big a role she played in Avengers Endgame. It was a very good way to conclude her character arc throughout the series, because it was Nebula of the present having to face Nebula of the past and meeting Gamora of the past, along with Thanos of the past coming to the present and the final battle. You see, since Nebula is a cyborg, she's connected with her other past self, cyborgness, and it's got like a video of all the things she does in her life. And well, that's what makes Thanos catches on to the future and decide to intervene. And also, it's how like Nebula's having to talk with her past sister Gamora and help her fix what happened in the present. And she does, but also it is the past Nebula who in that time and spot was doing everything she could to please her father Thanos. And well, she ended up doing that because that's what made Thanos go into the present. Because here's the thing, when they all came back from the whole time travel adventure, it was Nebula who came back as the past Nebula, but they didn't know it was the past Nebula. They thought it was the same Nebula from the present. And that's how Thanos in the past came to the present. But still, how she also present Nebula confronted her past self and tried to get her to join their side, but couldn't. Ended up having to kill her past self. Will that affect her in the present? Maybe. I don't know. But definitely, this was one of the things that was so beautiful and made her the breakout star of this movie, and her journey with how she wanted to fix things, get her sister back. And yeah, she technically got her back, but only from the 2014 Gamora. They weren't able to get the present day Gamora back because she didn't die from the vanish. She died by different means. By the way, same thing with Vision. He didn't come back either in this film because he died differently. How he died from getting the Soul Stone destroyed. So he wasn't a part of the vanish. And I won't deny that is pretty sad. But moving straight on, guys. Eventually, when Thanos got in, and after the whole snap thing that Hulk did to revive everybody, he destroyed the facility of the Avengers. But this is where it led into one of the best scenes in Avengers Endgame, and that was the Marvel Trinity. You guys know how in DC, they got the DC Trinity, that being Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Well, here, we got the Marvel Trinity of Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. You see, those three were the first to take on Thanos when he arrived on Earth with the Black Order and all his army. And man, was that such a beautiful scene, seeing those three go after Thanos. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved every minute of that. But then came one of the big moments that everyone in that theater that I was in the theater with, we all cheered like crazy as Captain America wielded Mjolnir. He was now worthy of wielding Mjolnir, and he and Thanos went one-on-one. That battle was better than what we had with Infinity War. And in the terms that Captain America was more on the offensive this time, and the Infinity War, he was more on the desperate defense to try to buy time as Scarlet Witch tried to destroy the Soul Stone. Oh boy, was it beautiful. That was so amazing to see. But then finally came the biggest moment of them all in Endgame. Then everyone in that theater, none of us could stop cheering until after they started charging to Thanos. And that was every last character that was in Infinity Wars and all the past films. Wakandan warriors and Asgardian warriors. Everyone who was destroyed from the snap had assembled. That's right, guys. Everybody who came from a portal that was made by Doctor Strange, and they all had finally assembled. Oh my God, I could not tell you how crazy we were all going, especially when we saw Peter Parker. We all just like really cheered off loud when we saw Peter Parker back, and he got his moment to shine by activating something in his iron spider armor to where he really took down a lot of those aliens that were in Infinity Wars that were here in Endgame. Oh, and he was doing it like crazy. It was amazing. It was beautiful. I'm telling you guys, just seeing all of what happened and the whole keep away from Thanos thing, that the CGI was a little wonky there, but that's one of the other negative things I had about it. CGI wasn't really all that great in some of the battle scenes, especially at the end of the battle, but it still didn't kill the movie, mind you. It was still great. They didn't have as much CGI as probably I was noticing, but that's because I was just too into it. But still, y'all get my point here. But even still, though, it also got to the point where when I thought about Captain Marvel and she ended up getting the gauntlet from Peter, it led into this scene I talked about in my non-spoiler review of women who saw that movie. And if you girls have already seen that movie, then you know that scene, the scene I'm about to talk about, where almost all the MCU female leads got together, assembled together, and took on Thanos. Oh, was that not beautiful? Was that not awesome? Yes, because that was awesome to me. I mean, I have a friend who didn't like it, understandably why. It may have something to do with the whole thing with Brie Larson, but I didn't care about that. I thought that scene was awesome. And I'm not lying. It was awesome. But then finally came to the saddest moment in the entire film, Tony's death. Yes, Tony died. Now, I pretty much suspected that it would be Tony and Captain America would be dying in this film, but it was just actually only Tony who dies. And man, it was both heroic and sad. I'm not gonna lie. Me, along with someone I was sitting by when I was watching this film, along with others that I was noticing as I was looking around, they were crying just like I was crying. Tony, Robert Johansson. I mean, you know who I'm talking about. Robert, he was the one, yeah, Robert Downey Jr., who started this all, and he died right there in front of us all, guys. He died. That was very emotional and very sad to see. Having after doing the snap of the Infinity Stones, when he took the stones away from Thanos, when he got the gauntlet back, it was him who did the snap, and by doing the snap, he got rid of Thanos and his army. It was him and his army who disintegrated. But unfortunately, Tony died because if a regular human used all those stones, yeah, it was no surprise that in the end they die, and it was sad to see that, especially for Peter, who saw Tony as his teacher, and very heartbreaking for Pepper too. And during the whole funeral scene, the guy who I was sitting with, I was like him. I was wondering who this one guy was who was at the funeral. I gave it a minute, and then I realized who it was. It was that kid from Iron Man 3. You know, after his house got attacked and he was able to escape into a small town, into a farm. It was that kid from Iron Man 3. Yeah, it took me a while, but that's who that was. In case some of y'all who saw it and still didn't know who that person was, it was that kid from Iron Man 3. And yeah, it was an emotional time in that funeral. We were all crying. Not just the people in that film and that scene, but all of us in that auditorium. Very sad. But afterwards, you also have Captain America. The way he goes out is that after putting the stones back in each of the timelines where they found them, he decided he's not going to come back to the present. It was time for him to return back. It was time. Oops. Come on. Sorry, guys. It was time for him to return back to Peggy Carter and his timeline. And after 80 years of waiting, after nearly 80 years of waiting, he finally gave Peggy Carter that dance. Yes, he finally gave Peggy Carter that dance and ended up marrying her. No doubt what influenced his decision was when he and Tony had to go back further in time to get the Space Stone. Because here's the thing, when they tried to get it back from the invasion of New York, they failed, mostly because Hulk, who had to take the stairs, knocked Tony out, and Loki got the Tesseract and teleported himself away. It forced them to have to go back even further. It's where Tony got a chance to have some time talking with his dad as a stranger, and when Captain America was getting some PIM particles, which was used to do the time travel, they went back early. He went to retrieve those, but he also got a moment to see Peggy while he was over there. And that's no doubt what influenced his decision to finally live the life he wanted to live with the people he knew back then. So that's when, in the present time, he passed on the torch of the shield to none other than the Falcon, Sam Wilson. And that, guys, well, that is pretty much the movie. Yeah. And the only other negative thing I have, I already talked about 2 of the 3 I had negatives on. The other one was Pepper Potts. Don't get me wrong, I love she was joined in on the final battle, and I love seeing that scene of her, of the husband and wife fighting together. But her getting that suit out of nowhere like that, I didn't like that. But even still, though, those 3 negatives could not take away from how beautiful this film was, guys. It was amazing. The structure of the story, the closure for each of these characters, especially Tony, Nebula, and and Captain America, was beautifully well done. Wish we could have got a little more Rocket, but this was mostly focused on the original Avengers, that being Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, and you can add Nebula in there only because this was perfect for the conclusion of her character arc, at least with what we got. I don't know, I'm pretty sure she'll be in the next Guardians of the Galaxy film, but we'll see what happens after that. Especially with the fact that we got a time displacement 2014 Gamora, and what's her effect going to be on the present team of the Guardians of the Galaxy? I guess we'll have to wait and see come the sequel. That's what I'm going to be interested in. But you know what, guys? I think I've gone on for long enough. And if you guys were able to stay here with me this whole time, I'm mad props to you. And thank you for staying and supporting me as I did my spoiler talk here of Avengers Endgame. What a great movie. It was beautiful. And I already saw the domestic box office. It's making box office history right now. And no surprise, this is the last Avengers film. So it did surprise me there. It was beautiful. It was great. There's nothing more to say. I got him. I'm going to end it right there, guys. But if you guys are enjoying my videos, and if you enjoyed this video, click that like button and then hit the subscribe channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when I make more videos. And until then, Mega Geek Mixer signing out. Bye!